6:55, 3 April 2023.
Well, thank you for tonight, where we can come together and discuss the needs of the county and how we can all do our part to move our county forward. God, we would be remiss if we didn't take a second to pause and just say that we join you in wrapping your arms around those families and our neighbors down in Nashville with the shooting this week. And God, we're just counting our blessings that every one of Sumner County's families gets to go home and hug their kids tonight. God, we pray that every action we have tonight just moves the county forward, and so that those children that we are hugging have a better future and a brighter tomorrow. God, we love you, we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Just to allay all suspicions, I was playing tag with grandsons, and the dog wanted to play too, so he cut in front of me, and I face planted. And it used to look a whole lot worse than this.
Mr. Chairman, you're too old to be doing all that.
No. That's life. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Moving on. Approval of the minutes for March 6, 2023. Motion.
Motion. Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have two folks that want to talk that have signed up. Join the next first. State your name and your address, please.
So, my name is Joanna Daniels. I live in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And two things I want to talk to you about tonight. One, a budget item with the school kit, and then two, the survey. So the school kit is it's an early literacy program that Stephen King brought up on February 21st at a school board meeting. If you go and watch the video starting at 1 hour and 23 minutes, he brought up his concerns with this early literacy program. And one of them was that it talked about rote memorization, saying that it was racist to the core, that it's rooted in white supremacy, and we do that in our schools here. And so what Stephen King asked was that there be a study session on this. And Scott Langford said, yeah, sure, no problem. We don't have to pay this until June. Well then, in March, at the literally 24 hours, 48 hours before the meeting, they said, oh my gosh, we have to vote on this now because we're going to lose the grant. Well, that isn't what Scott Langford said in February. So before you have a budget item on school kit, and the reason I'm bringing this up to you guys is that, you know, stuff like this I really feel the school board is doing, and it's not right, because me as a citizen, I watched that February 21st, and I was waiting for a study session to come up, and it never happened. And then all of a sudden, they put it back on the agenda, and they're approving it. It was on the consent agenda, so there was no talk about it. And stuff like this has to stop at the school board, because still, school kit is horrible. It has all kinds of CRT through it, and it's for our early literacy, and it's teaching and training the teachers. So, again, that is something that is really upsetting to me as a citizen, and I know you guys overlooked the budget for the school board. Two, the school surveys. Right now, I've been talking about school surveys since probably July of this past year. I am completely against these school surveys. There's a Safe Schools Act that was put into effect, years ago, and they had a school survey. But that originally was supposed to be for the teachers. It wasn't even supposed to be for the students. And then they decided to do a school survey for the students. These school surveys are like 100 pages long, 100 questions. Some of them are 50 questions. Some of them ask questions like, have you ever done alcohol? Have you ever done drugs? Have you ever done this? And those are leading questions. And these are things that, you know, my mom was a single parent of 4, and she may have done some questionable stuff when she was a single parent, okay? Exactly. And I graduated with honors, okay? And all my little sisters, no kids out of wedlock or anything like this. And these school surveys, 1, it's messing with the kids' minds, okay? And 2, I believe that they're fishing expeditions for what's going on in the houses of these people. And 3, sorry, can't count tonight. And 3, I don't believe they're necessary. Keep the school surveys to the teachers, not to the students. Let the students confide in their parents, not the teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Katie Brown.
Good evening. I'm Katie Brown, and I live in Hendersonville, but I work for the Sumner County Schools here in Gallatin. I actually am here to speak about surveys. I oversee survey administration for the school district. What I brought here tonight, this is survey results from 2003, and this is from 1999. Mr. Hyde, you probably remember Pat Connor coming to you about student surveys. So this is a long-standing practice. It's data that we use to inform the programming that we have in our schools. It's also data that's used by community organizations such as the Anti-Drug Coalition. I was the director of the Anti-Drug Coalition for a few years before coming to the school district, and an example of one of the things that's asked in the survey of high school students is, if you've used alcohol, where have you gotten that alcohol? One year, the answers were really high on that they were able to purchase it at a retail location. So one of the initiatives that we did in my previous job was to work with local law enforcement on setting up Undercover 5, and went in to reinforce that underage sales was illegal, and that survey question has diminished extensively because it used to be pretty easy to purchase alcohol in Sumner County for a minor, and it is no longer. Then we started getting survey answers that adults were providing the alcohol to students' parents in their own home. And so we did an education campaign about the liability that you incur when you provide alcohol to minors in your home. The surveys have 0 personally identifiable information. There is no way to identify an individual student. There's not questions about what's happening in the household. It's all about personal accounts. There are questions about attitudes, meaning like, do your parents think it's okay for you to drink? But again, that is not something that is personally identifiable at all, and that also leads towards sort of our education pieces. Where do we need to focus our energy? Is that conversations we need to start having younger or older? So all of those questions come from a survey agency that we work with, and the data is always, there's not even any identity. They don't use a student ID number. They don't use anything that could be identified back to them specifically. So that's just in general about our student surveys. If you have questions, I'll get it. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to more report. We had a great ad hoc education meeting again on the 17th of March at 6 p.m. for members and also the public that attended. Got a briefing on the change in population of Sumner County and projections that we're moving out a couple of decades into the future so that we can get an idea of where the population was and where possible schools might need to be done in the future so that we're not caught off guard. We had Josh Soda, and we need to thank him for doing that informational briefing. We also plan to have Josh back in May, probably fill in some blanks. We're trying to get some information to him so that he can give us a more informed idea of what we need to know as far as that goes, so we can do some accurate planning. The briefing was also open to the public to ask questions. I think it was beneficial for everybody. This month, we'll have Mary Ann Dursky, who was from the school board, and Commissioner Hyde also was very instrumental in getting her here, and hopefully she will fill in some of the blanks that we have as far as TISA is concerned. We've already had a briefing on that, and now that they finalized it, we should be able to understand what that goes, and then later on, hopefully, we'll get one more from William Slater, and that'll be from the lawmakers' point of view. In light of the tragedy that happened at the Covenant School, a lot of concerned parents have emailed and called, and county personnel have emailed and called also. Certain items be bought to harden schools, extra equipment, EMS personnel, training for school personnel and active shooter scenarios, et cetera. And I know this previous meeting that went on for about an hour and a half, there was a lot of concern as far as that was very evident. The governor has made known a plan, his executive order 97, I think it is, for these items, and it is still in the planning stages. It's facts are clear, and we know what's going on as far as the state is concerned. They're going to approve and fund and certain things that are necessary, then we will act on what is given to us. Whether that means filling in the gaps or funding, and then we'll have to find out where that funding is going to be coming from. So, if there's any other discussion that we would like to have on this, I'll make a motion, we'll talk about it. If not, we'll just move on. It was exhausting. Okay, there's no report from the county mayor. Is there anything from the school board? Those that are here from the school board. Okay. Dr. Phillips did send the attendance to the members, and so we do have that, months 1 through 7. Next thing we'll do is we're going to look at the resolution here for the director of schools. I'd like to make a motion for discussion. Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Now, I did not title this, mainly because I wanted that to be part of the discussion for this meeting tonight, and what I did was I took two separate laws, one dealing with the board, school board, and the other was the duties and powers of the director of schools. And all we're asking him to do is to show up at these committee meetings or have designated personnel to come. Last sentence there is, we request the director of school or his designees be present at all meetings in the future to discuss budgetary matters and have the quarterly financial report prepared for the education committee and the county legislative body. These are things that are spelled out in the law, and we just would like to have them follow the law. So, anybody have a title that they would like to put on this resolution? Your opportunity to shine.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say, I always definitely compare myself to anyone else, and what I did, because I may have done everything wrong, I'm not sure, but I always attended education committee meetings. Rarely did I miss, but if I did, Mary Ann Dursky was here to give a report. She was really officially titled an assistant director of schools. I really think that it's very important. I know we're going through a change in directors of schools, but I think it's highly important. No one can really speak for that person that's sitting in that chair. And I think it's very important for the director, whoever is coming in that's new, to be at our meetings. And you may think that you have no power at all, but you do. You can just say, we're not acting on anything. sent to us until there's attendance. But I just feel like that it's very important to hear from the head of the school system. And on the other hand, I would agree that the committee would show at times disagreement, but do it in such a way that we don't batter the person that comes and speaks to us. I wouldn't want that to happen. I didn't like it when it happened to me, and it happened plenty of times. But I don't think we should do that. But if we show our concerns, that's perfectly all right. But it's very important, in my opinion, as a committee.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. We need to at least hear both sides of the equation, and as far as knowing what we don't know. I know that there was, at the beginning, whenever we were trying to get through a lot of the budgetary requests that were given to us, we had to understand how they were being done, since we didn't have a lot of the information that was necessary, and we had to look up a lot of things through those codes that are provided by the state, provided by the county, and things like that. So it was a learning curve on our part, and I do agree with Commissioner Hyde on that. I would like to go ahead and just put out, this is a resolution for the director of schools to follow the Tennessee Code annotated. Just as simple as that. Somebody else has any?
I'd like to make a motion to amend your resolution.
Sure.
I hear clearly what Mr. Hyde is indicating, that there is not a person that can sit in the director's seat and come and report. If we put his designee, I don't think we'll get the report, because the law is absolutely that. You're not directing who the designee would be, or in what circumstances that would be covered. I don't know how we would amend it, but I would like to take that into consideration.
So, do you want to strike or his designees, or put and his designees?
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So he is the director of schools for second in command, or however you want to word it, right? That's what you're saying.
I understand that we all take vacations, and there are times that we can't attend, but I think that we can reflect on the last few months, and that the attendance has been totally void.
Yeah, January,
To anticipate who is going to come, who's coming to represent that voice, because we haven't even had that voice at the table. I don't know that leaving the door open for any designee is going to fulfill the requirements of the law. And maybe we can work on the exact wording for that.
Keep in mind too, though, if you have a director of schools and there's something on this committee's agenda that needs to be addressed, for example, safe schools, then the safe schools designee would need to be here. If the director of schools can't be here for that meeting, might be a budget item, then that's the finance director or the assistant director of schools for finance. So it's always going to be somewhat different if that person can't be here. So I think if we limit it to just one or two people, then we may be sitting here and not getting an answer from time to time in our committee, which we've done. But I think we need to be real careful how we, because it's a huge school system, massive budget, and a lot of designees that doing a lot of different jobs. Unless somebody's going to come in and micromanage the school system, that's us.
I think,
I was just going to make a suggestion. You wanted to title this something very general, which is the TCA, follow the TCA. I believe if you required the director to appear, and only the director, that opens up the door for him to negotiate why somebody else may need to be there, and y'all can come to some agreement on who needs to attend at that point. But I believe to his point, if you start trying to figure out what the meeting may be in the future, they're going to find a way around it. So that's my suggestion.
That's what I was going to say too, and also, looking at the way this is written, it requires the director to be here. So it could be in addition to finance or safe schools or whoever's on the agenda, but I think that if I'm reading this right, that's specific to interpretations, but I believe this does require that the director of schools be in attendance.
May I add, I will support that. I think the director of schools should be required. And in the section, Katie Brown's, or if I don't know if I said your name right.
That's fine.
I always get confused with Amanda.
Yes.
So, because it's one Monday night a month, and I'm here, and if the law says he should be here, he should be here. He, she, whatever we're gonna get.
Darrell, can you point out where you saw that you said these, I agree. Let me just start off by saying, this is, like you said, it's a big school system, there's a lot of different moving parts, there's a lot of budget. I want to make sure we've got the right wording in here. So can you point out where it says he's got to be here? Because all I see is make a written report and be present quarterly and annually, and then report to local legislative body whenever it appears a portion of the school fund has been in danger of being misappropriated or illegal. I don't see where it says you've got to be here every month. And so if that's in the TCA, I'd like to make sure that gets in this resolution.
I think it's right at the top, each local board of education authorized to employ a director of school as provided, and it goes on to say, the duty of education assigns the director of school the duty to, and then it lays out what his or her duty is as the director.
Right, but where does it say you've got to be here, I guess is what I want to make sure we're including, because like I said, it's written.
Being present at all quarterly annual settlements for the county trustees, so that's one part where he should be here.
But that's not this.
I'm trying to answer your question, sir. Report to the local legislative body and the commissioner when it appears to be the director in any portion of the school fund has been misappropriated, and then requires the director of school to prepare a budget, no LEA legislative body, reports to the local legislative body. Then I think the director of schools does need to be present at all meetings, discuss budgetary matters, and have a quarterly financial report prepared for the education committee and the county legislative body. So I think it's plain that what the statute is saying, and then what we're finally being resolved, that we're requiring their presence.
I disagree with that interpretation, but like you said, I mean, I think it's open for interpretation, because it doesn't say to me, you've got to be here. I agree that I think we need to answer some questions. It was very helpful to have Dr. Langford here last month, when we had that. It's been really helpful to have Katie here when we've had questions. I just want to make sure if it specifically lays out to report monthly in person to the county commission or anything like that, that we include that in this resolution.
So, what would we like to put there as far as we request the director of schools or his designees be present at all meetings?
What about and designate? Strike out or is and make and designate, depending on what the topic of the meeting. He or she can bring whoever they want to. I'd like to make a motion that, last paragraph be it resolved, we request the director of schools and his or her designees, and their designees.
Terry made a motion, so,
Oh,
Well, she made a motion to amend it.
to amend,
Yeah, and I was
Didn't give me
asking for
progress.
additional help with the wording, and I appreciate that.
well, I second her motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay, motion carries. Okay.
And I reemphasize something.
Yes, sir.
I used to hate coming to this committee.
How do you feel about it now?
I've had some meetings that I thought, oh, it's Monday night again, I've got to go to that education committee meeting. And it can be very unpleasant. We can say no in a nice way, or we can say no in a mean way, but no is no, it's the same thing. So I would beat them to death. It is intimidating to come before 7 or 8 or 9 people and answer their questions, so just keep that in mind. if you would.
Yeah, and be on camera while you're doing it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to, new business. All the budget requests are federal grants and require no approval from us. Is there anyone that would like to discuss any of them, because I do have some questions for the Board of Education personnel.
We need to vote on the resolution.
I'm sorry, back up there.
And since we're doing that, everything spins on the word, we are doing and there, correct?
And the title, my title is sufficient? A resolution to request that the director of schools follow the Tennessee Code annotation and this resolution.
I make a motion, we accept that title.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. So we'll do business.
We just do like we tried to put on there that I didn't know, read it one, and then I have the titles, and then we have to vote on all of them.
Okay, one more time.
So, I'll have it wrong.
Okay. All those, second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. As I said, I'd like to talk about one of these budget requests, and
Sure.
if so, I need a motion.
Oh, to discuss. I'll make a motion to discuss.
Okay. All in favor? All against?
So, may I, bring up a topic for general discussion for the public? Because it's been asked of me what it means for it to be for information only. And I know that we had a speaker that asked for us to specifically look at some of these items. So I was wondering if the law director could explain what information only means to this committee.
Other than putting some more research into it, it's him using words that the statute references. So he's complying with the law by stating that.
So when we say, when these items come before us, as 10A does, for information only, for the public's benefit, could you state what powers we might have for information only?
The information only is to keep you appraised of what they're gonna do.
And we have no, I know that a citizen spoke and spoke specifically to one of these items, and I just want it clear that we're only informed, we have no
Control.
control.
Do these amendments, is this speaking to the fact that it's amendments within a large category?
I would have to defer that to the director of schools.
Yeah, no, we don't have it here. But it's, I have to do that if it's in a large category like administration.
Correct, and then open for discussion, just like the resolution.
It's occurring between large categories.
Between line items, and then the board has to vote on it, not us. We just, where the funding source, but once we get in the budget, the school
If it's
board.
within category.
If it's within category.
Okay, thank you for that, I did not understand that.
Okay. Now, I know that there's, the means in which we get the money into the county has a lot to do with it. These are straight federal to county, and that's one reason why we don't have any say-so in it.
I was just gonna mention that these were federal funds, and therefore they're not.
That's right. If you look at, the thing that David Lawwick gave us a long time ago when we first got started, we know where the funding comes from, and, these are federal funds. And one that I have a question about is budget number 156. Because this is an ESSER grant, and, there are, using these ESSER funds for teachers, educational assistants, school pathologists, cafeteria personnel, supervisor, director, computer programmers, custodial personnel salaries and benefits, other supplies, Other contracted services, software, for $5,798,579.81. So, that's a lot of money. I just want to make sure that once the ESSER fund does go away, that we don't, as a county, pick up the tab for that.
That's not something I would be able to speak to as far as that. And I was trying to find the page you're referring to, but I would oversee the extra budget. Okay.
Well, that's just a question that I have, because I know that there's a lot of people hired under this, or having their salaries paid. I don't know if they were hired or what, but I just want to make sure that we're not on the hook for this, and that the school board's ready to let these people go once the money runs out, or you find another grant in order to keep them employed. I know that happens a lot too, so even that's local school level. Anybody have any other discussion on this?
That brings back up, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the point, that, like you said, back in September and October, when I asked the question of the ESSER funds are being paid into that position, I believe we have supervisors, positions that are coming out of the ESSER fund. So I guess my question would be, or could be, is if the county commission allotted X number of dollars and gave an open check to the school board for X amount of money, and they're using these ESSER funds to pay these instructors, is that on top of or in lieu of the county's funds that we allotted them for that top? Then where does that other line item that was the intent to be the salary for that person, the ESSER funds are being set, where does that money go?
That's why I wanted to make sure these extra personnel with these extra funds, once it does expire, and it's going to expire, they're willing to be the fallout from that. That's my concern. These have a time limit on them. It's not like the Perkins grants, it's not the idea or anything, those are recurring grants. This is not. This has got a timeline on it.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. If the federal government decides the ESSERs are not followed, and they come and they call back, do they call back from the school budget or just the county general fund?
So the school budget, the funded. And we didn't have anything to do with it, because there's information open. It was purely school board decision.
Can follow up.
I mean, I think we're pretty much held immune to that. What do you think, Mr. Law Director?
This almost becomes a numbers game more than a legal question. I would have to see some specific cases where you're talking about this.
Well, you've got a bunch of them right here. That's one package. Because every one of them, we don't have a say in whatsoever. We just, again, we're being advised of what they're spending the money on, and that's about it.
And the biggest concern I'm understanding is double dipping, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or additional personnel, that kind of thing. Yes, ma'am.
What one of the citizens was talking about with their baby, cannot,
That's not.
oh, it's an item, I'm sorry, I thought it was part of it.
That's next thing.
Gotcha, right.
So, exhausted that. Next item on the agenda is the school climate surveys directed by Safe Schools Act. This item was added at Mr. Rogers' request, and I do have a motion for discussion. Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? So I'll go ahead and let Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I brought this as not only as a concerned parent, but also a county commissioner. First of all, I'll go ahead and say that I'm sorry kids, my wife and I registered our kids for school, because we like to have the idea that the schools protect our kids, that we don't have to worry about the surveys that they see while they're in school. So, I have a kid that's in an elementary school here in the Sumner County schools, a student, came home Friday, last week, said, "Daddy, I had to take a drug test while I was in school today." My head would all spun off my shoulders. And I finally got a grasp of what he was talking about. So, I was able to find it, and some of the questions in here are rather concerning. The very first, or the sixth question in the middle school, and I'll try to make this quick, Mr. Chairman, because there's 62 pages of this survey that's published here. The first one says, "Have you ever had one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage?" Keep in mind, this is a 12-year-old student in our county. How old were you when you first had one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage? In the past 30 days, how many drinks did you have, one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage? And I thought, maybe. But then it comes down to 5 or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage, 5 or more drinks on the same occasion. Past 30 days, if you had 5 or more drinks. And I thought, well, okay, times in which we live, all right. But then I go down to question number 14, and all of them just keeps getting worse. Have you ever used prescription drugs not prescribed by you or just to get high? And then not only it doesn't stop there, it gives my kid examples of what drugs to go look for. And gives them by name. Percocet, Oxycontin, Vicodin, codeine, Adderall, Xanax, Klonopin, benzodiazepines, Ativan, and gabapentin. And then it goes further, how were you when you first used prescription drugs not prescribed to you? And then in the past 30 days, how many prescription drugs have you used? And I thought, well, goodness, maybe. And then it goes on to talk about prescription stimulants, so they're further educating my child. Dextrine, Adderall, Ritalin, or Concerta. Oh, well, okay, how much worse can this get? And then you keep on scrolling down to question number 21, it starts talking about Oxycontin, morphine, and Demerol. Prescription pain medicine. In the past 30 days, how many days have you used prescription pain medicine? And then we start teaching them about over-the-counter drugs. That's the word, over-the-counter drugs. Cough, telemedicines, diet pills, stay-away pills, or laxatives. I wouldn't finish the sentence. And then it starts talking about cigarettes. I'm going to smoke a cigarette, same questions as marijuana. Then it comes down and starts talking about vaping device with nicotine. Then it comes down talking about vaping devices with flavors. That's more vaping device, smokeless tobacco, marijuana. Let's educate them on marijuana. How old were you when you first used marijuana? So if you're not a cool kid, let's encourage you to go use marijuana. And during the past 30 days, how many days did you use marijuana? Have you vaped marijuana? That's question 48. 49 is vape marijuana. How many times in the last few days? So, Mr. Chairman, I say all that to say this is rather appalling. Then we go into, it just gets better, folks, THC edibles. So now we're educating them on gummies, and then here's really what got me. Have you ever used methamphetamines? Methamphetamines can be known as crank, meth, blue, ice, or crystal. And then they have the nerve to ask, how old were you when you first used it? In the past 30 days, how many days have you used it? And enter the exact number of days you used in the past 30 days, 0 to 30. And any other illegal drugs, crack, powder cocaine, heroin, inhalants, barbiturates, and steroids. Is this dare or pharmacy school? And then Steroids, 12 years old. 12 years old. We're not done yet. We did this during ELA class. Ecstasy, alcohol, tobacco products, vaping devices, marijuana, prescription drugs. How easy would it be to get to? But we're not worried about what goes inside people's houses. Very difficult, fairly easy, very easy, or don't know. During the past 30 days, if you used alcohol, where did you get it? If you bought or tried alcohol yourself in the past 30 days, were you ever able to show proof of age? And then it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. Mr. Chairman, the reason I brought this is not only one that upsets me, that this is done during an English language arts class. Two, it's hidden in 537 pieces of paperwork that we have to sign on registration night. Three, our law enforcement officer can't even ask these questions without an adult. So how does every kid in our schools show reasonable suspicion that we have to ask these questions? This goes well above and beyond the scope of education. I think if we really got back down to reading, writing, and arithmetic, we would see our test scores go up. I think this is well beyond the intent of what we need to focus on in our schools. Citizens, I'm on the record to tell you, I'm sorry I voted for it. Should have won me, but not again. Not again.
I opted my children out of any surveys because I had a teacher that was a good friend and said, you probably not to get that survey years ago. So because I opted my children out of these surveys, my children were basically punished. They were taken to a room of isolation and they had to write because they didn't do the survey. These surveys have appalled me from day one. Thankfully, I knew to opt them out. I know you found that survey, but you keep searching, there's surveys about very, very personal things as well. They ask them about touching themselves, masturbation, sex. It goes on and on. It doesn't end. It's disgusting. I'm glad I opted my children out, and I don't know what the heck this has to do with teaching our kids anything. I think it's extremely invasive, and I don't know what we need to do, but we need to get that crap out of our schools.
I know whenever I was a teacher, I had to fill out a lot of that. I noticed how much more was focused on drugs now. It used to be, do you feel safe in your school? Do you see, any authority figures?
Elementary now,
That's another thing. But, this has gotten definitely very invasive. They need to revise this some way, because it's just a little beyond pale. Somebody that's in the 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
I try to be mindful, I guess, of all the other students in this country. But even still, I can't imagine that if an SRO officer or on patrol comes in contact with a juvenile, and this juvenile may be under the influence of something. There's certain things that officer has to do before he or she can go meddling and questioning this kid. But it's okay for our schools. I get it, shame on me, because we probably didn't read the waiver, and that's where we gave them authority. to do that. However, I've wised up, and taken that away. So I guess, I brought this to have some public awareness, for those kids that are in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This is what they're being asked. And I don't agree with it.
I guess this is where we need to talk to our state representatives and senators, and let them know that, this is something that, is not acceptable, needs to be revised, and get back to safe schools, and not personally invasive questioning.
Who writes these, do you know?
I don't know.
And we asked,
Mrs. Rula?
Yes, this survey was developed by, it's called EMT, and it is an evaluation company that administers it for us. I was trying to find what EMT stands for. Education Management and Training, Evaluation Management and Training. That's who administers the survey for us. The survey is actually developed by them with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services and the Department of Education. So it's a joint survey that comes out of those.
And then who policies?
EMT does, because it's a digital survey, and so that goes to them, and then we get the reports back. And that was your question.
Oh, yes. If you commented and saying that we need to tell our state legislators about this, well, right now, I brought this to state legislators, and HB 1411 addresses this, and it makes it so it's opt-in. You have to opt in, because right now, your kids are automatically opted in. And so this is addressing that. HB 1411, it goes before the Education Administration on Wednesday, just so you know. Yes.
I was answering your question, I didn't know if I could speak. You mentioned that your elementary child came home and talked about taking a drug test.
My middle school child.
Okay, you said elementary, and I wanted to dispel that there are 0 questions about substance use on the elementary survey. And that the average age of first experimentation is 13. And so when we ask these questions of 12-year-olds, we're making sure that that it hasn't gone younger. And so they, unfortunately, thankfully, your child may not be, but unfortunately, they are experimenting and they do have access to these. If a child doesn't know what it is, then they don't know what it is. There's no conversation around this. They don't recognize the word. They move on from it. And so as far as like the law enforcement questioning, these are not discriminating questions because it's not identifiable. There's no way that we're not saying like Katie said she gets high every day. It's anonymous entirely. So that's why we can ask those without it being part of suspicion or anything like that.
I have a question. These are not paper. These are done on a digital device.
They are now, yes.
And there is no way that can be tracked?
No. I mean, they're on a school-issued device. It's not on their own device.
Google Classroom.
No, it's not. They don't go through that link. They don't have to sign in to be able to access the survey.
Have to, or they don't?
They don't. The link is not a part of their, we used to actually do this through our own Google link, and they did log in, and it was a part of their sort of like a questionnaire, almost like an assignment, but we still only got just the data on the back side of that. But now it's administered by this agency who takes that and aggregates it, and they're a national agency that does this type of thing. And so it's protected and guarded. It's only ever seen in aggregate. I was telling somebody earlier that we used to have, when we administered it ourselves, there was a free answer place where they could say what they wanted, and sometimes they would identify themselves during that piece, but we still couldn't link it back to the rest of the question.
What is how often are these surveyed? What is the plus or minus rate? How true are the answers? I raised 4 boys.
Sure.
So, my boys go to school, they're mad at mom and daddy.
No, there's nothing. I mean, what are they saying about you that would be...
No.
Understand? I don't understand. Okay, that's fine, but when so many students, it averages out.
Okay, let's put it.
may I ask another question?
Sure.
zero when we administer them ourselves, but because we're using this agency, it's $2,200.
The whole county?
Yes, sir. Annually.
How long does it take us time for this?
10 to 15 minutes. It's only once a year. And the schools, it varies on the school on how long they, or when they administer, whether it's an ELA class or science class or computer class, and how they administer.
So they did 91 questions in 2 minutes.
I mean, 10 to 15 minutes is that.
It took me 15 minutes to read it, and I read 40 pages an hour.
Well, I don't remember that picture, the phone period. That was 45 minutes, one hour long.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the audience member a question? Ms. Daniels, you said that was 1411, and if we agree with that, how would you said it's going to Wednesday, so we need to contact our legislature. I want to give you this public forum for people that are watching to say, hey, this is how you need to get behind this. Just contact your legislator.
Yeah, so your legislators for HB 1411, and what it does is it allows, right now, all your children are automatically opted into every survey and everything. What this is doing is it will change it to the Tennessee Code 496, 1503 and 1308, I think it is. I'm so sorry, didn't memorize those. But anyways, what it does is it makes it so that you have to opt in to the surveys instead of your child automatically being opted in. So you no longer would have to sign them out, you actually have to sign them in now.
Is there a Senate version as well, or just a House?
It is 1711 bowling.
Okay.
So it's Fritz, House, and Bowling, Senate.
Thank you, sorry to be on the spot like that.
No problem.
Any other discussion? The last item that we have here, copy your lease for the Board of Education Registration Department. I didn't see that in our package.
No.
Is there?
Last one?
Well, there was one last month, That was one that I got at one time, I remember.
Like this time, we need more information on that.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, just if you would like to tell them, we need action work on this. Copy your lease for the Board of Education Transportation Department. Just let them know that before we act on it, we have to know what we're acting on. Okay.